Today we will start off with configuration of Citrix PVS 2 node box. So as in our last series, we went ahead and installed the Citrix provision services on node O1 and O2. Today we'll be configuring in the Citrix PVS stuff. So let's log on to PVS O1. And as I stated, I also had a DHCP configuration created for my lab environment. So I've created a failover between O1 and O2. So I've got the DHCP role running with a scope created for O1 and O2, where the DHCP scope would be handling out request to my target clients. So I'll be going ahead and clicking on Citrix Provision Configuration Wizard. So this is the wizard that will pop up. We go ahead and click next. I already do have DHCP running on the server, so I'll select that first option. That will provide IP address assignments to the target devices. I'll click next. I'll be selecting the Citrix Provision PXE services, which is installed on this machine, on this computer. Click next. You could also have a DHCP on this computer with TFTP server running with DHCP options for the Pixie boot on 66 and 67. But in this lab scenario, I'll be just running Citrix Provision PXE services on this computer, and I'll go ahead and create next. So you can see the first screen that comes up is you'll get two options. Firstly, creating a new farm, a new PVS farm, and then joining an existing farm. So we'll go ahead and create a new farm. So we'll click, select the first option and click next. The next option is it's going to create a database onto the SQL server. So I'm just going to provide the name, the SQL server name, where it's going to be creating the database. I'll browse onto it. In our case, if we have a multi-mirror instance, you can create or just put type in the instance name. You got some additional options, like if you got your TCP running on not on the default port but on a custom port, you can mention that port here. You can also enable multi-subnet failover for SQL always on, and you can also specify a mirror database mirror failure partner. But in our case, we are just keeping it as simple and as it's our lab environment. So I'll click cancel and I'll go ahead and click next. The authentication method that I want is I want to be using Active Directory integrated option, which is you have the SQL server as well. So I'll click Active Directory and click OK. So at this time, as you can see, it did authenticate to my SQL server. So the service and the account that I'm using has got full rights to normally create database on the SQL server. So I'll leave the database name as default. I'll call the farm. I'll call the farm as default as well. Create a site. You can have a different depending on the location. So if you had two data centers, one in London and one in US, you could just name it appropriately and the collection name as well. So I'll keep all of the names default as it is at the moment. And for the farm administrative group, I've already created a previous administrator. So I'll be using that specific security group, and all the users in that group has got full access to this specific previous farm of mine. So I'll go ahead and click next. This is the name of the store. And it could be anything, right? It could be Windows Server 2019, 2022. So we just need to have a default path where the store is going to be created. So I've already got a D drive, and I just got one. I just got one folder called D, and under D, I'll make sure that the default store is under D store for both of my previous O1 and O2 box. And the name of the store, I just call it store. It can be changed. You can keep in any name that you want. Go ahead and click next. I'm not going to be joining Citrix Cloud at this point. So I'm just going to be selecting the option join your farm with your Citrix virtual apps and desktop site. You can either leave it, do not join, or you can, if you got a Citrix Cloud, you can use your DAS subscription as well to join that. But in our case, we'll just be using the third one, which is Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop. And next. So at this point, we're just going to be, as it's trying to join the farm, the operations cannot be stopped as it's just saying, so we just say yes. At this point, I'm just going to give in the controller name of my environment. So I'm just going to punch in the FQDN name of my controller. I'll click next. So it will go ahead and validate the controller address. And as you can see, Happily accepted it. I'll just punch in the license server name, which is license server one. I'll leave all of the default because that's the port that it's on. Click next. I got a specific account that I want to be using for my streaming service, which is the stream and soap service. So I'll use that, which is called it SVC PVS, and click next. Oops. Click next. I'll leave the Active Directory computer account password to 7 days. That can be changed depending on your needs. Click next. Now I've just got one network, so I'll be using that same network of mine, which is 139. Now you can have multiple networks as well. So you can have one for your management network, and then you can have one for your streaming networks. But in our case, in this lab scenario, we'll just go with the existing network that we have. I'll leave the default ports and the console ports open. Click next. I want to use a Citrix provision TFTP services. So this is the bin file. So I'll tick that option and click next. Now in here, I can add the other controller as well, which will normally use for my stream server boot list. I will edit that setting later on, but I'll click on advanced and I would like to make sure that I display diagnostic information. So I'll tick that option. And in the network restore, yeah, I'll just restore network location and click OK and click next. That's the SSL configuration. That's the certificate that it will normally use, which is, and I'll click on finish. Okay, it's just warning me that the Windows firewall is on. I've already got all of my necessary ports already been excluded, so I can happily go ahead and click OK, and I'll let it finish its thing where it stops the services, configures the streaming services, and also starts the networking services backup. So you can see that it's configuring the databases as well. So you can see that all of the services have started happily and the wizard is all green. So I'll click on done. At this point, I've already got I got the farm up and running. So if I click on the console, I should be able to log in to the console. I'll right click and click connect to farm. I'll just put in localhost, which is, and click on connect. And there you go. As you can see that it's connected to my Citrix PVS farms. That's my site, which is a default site. That's my store that we just created. And you can see that it's also connected to, that's just one box. So at this stage, what we're going to be doing is I'll be closing this and we'll jump on O2 and we'll add this node as a part of the existing farm. So we'll run through that setup. So I'll click on provision configuration wizard once again on O2. Click next. Yeah, it has a DHCP, so I'll leave that option. Click next. I'll use the provision PXE service on this computer. So at this point, instead of creating a new farm, I'm going to say join an existing farm. Click next. And in the server name again, I'll just point to my existing SQL server where it has created the database. And you can see that it has already picked up the farm automatically. So I'll select that farm and click next. I want to make sure that the site is the existing site itself. If you wanted, you can always go ahead and create a new site as well. But at this point, I want this specific controller to be a part of that same site. So I click next. I want to make sure that it's the same store as well. So I just want to make sure that I've got the two folder in here so it can validate it and click next. And at this point, I'll just add the other controller, which is my, and click next. It's picked up the licensing server of mine. So I'll leave all of my defaults and click next. In the user account, again, I want to make sure that I'm using the service account that we have created for the SOAP services. And I'll click next. I'll leave the Active Directory at 7. Next. Leave the default. Next. I want to make sure that I tick in the Citrix provision TFTP service. Next. And in here, I'm just going to add in the other box as well, which is 139. I just want to make sure the IPs are right. It's 139. And this right, 138. Oh, it's 140. Sorry, my bad. So I'll add 140 and click on advanced and click on the verbose mode. Okay to that. Select the SSL cert. Next. Finish. And again, it would warn me for the firewall being on, but I've already got most of the servers, all of the ports excluded. So I'm happy with that. I'll go ahead and click OK. So as you can normally see that the services are all started. I'll click on done and I'll open up provision console. I will connect to the console and I can also do an auto log on, which means the next time when I try to open up the console, it will automatically log me in. And now if I have a look at my sites, I should be able to see 2 servers in that farm. There you go. So as you can see, they're all registered. Uh, in the next series, we will start off with configuration of a Citrix MCS gold image, followed by a Citrix PVS gold image. So I'll be creating a target device, but we'll finish off with the Citrix MCS image, and we will take it from there on. Thank you everyone for watching this video. Hasta la vista from Citrix Sage. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much. Cheers.